What's up, guys? I'm Cliffy Bleszinski, CEO of Bosskey Productions. We have our lovely new sign in our great space here in historic downtown Raleigh. Let's look around, show you some stuff. Some more of the original old school signage right here. I guess obviously the justice of the peace here, so people, I guess, came here to get their marriage completely done and set. We're not allowed to touch that as per the terms of our lease. Here at Bosskey, you have nothing but the most high-tech experience here with production. You look at our high-tech, futuristic whiteboard. This is like some next-level Windows, Excel, organization type stuff. That's how we roll here. This is where I sit all day, and hopefully I don't wind up with a blood clot in my legs. Share the office with Arjan here and Chris. You know, being a CEO at a company, people say, oh, you want your own office? It's like, no, I get lonely. I need interaction. That's why I come to work every day, to talk about the game, to talk about games we played, talk about Game of Thrones, all that stuff. It's all about that interaction. So Bosskey is a studio that we founded actually this summer. We're being published and funded by Nexon, which is a huge Korean video game company. And our philosophies are basically stay small and nimble, so that in the first year we can essentially get a first version of our game out for the community, which is codenamed Project Bluestreak, and build the company while we build the community, while we build the game, all at the same time, and be as transparent as possible about the development of this PC game. PC gaming was really the start of my career. I made a lot of my games in my old IBM 386SX back in the wee early 90s, eventually transitioning and making JACKRABBIT with Arjan Brussee, who's now the COO here at Bosskey.
The first game I ever made, right, with Cliff, my new partner in Bosskey, right, is JACKRABBIT. And you know, it basically got started in that time where we had King's Quest with these 4 ugly colors. And you know, suddenly I figured out how to use 256 colors.
If you look at what's happening in the PC space right now, you can take a game like Skyrim that's a couple years old that looked great on consoles, and you get that grass mod for the PC and all the other mods that the users are putting out. And you can really see where the future's going. Graphics are not everything, gameplay absolutely trumps that, but once you've seen how good things look, it's hard to get plugged back into the matrix.
When NVIDIA got into the PC market, right, they really enabled PCs to be pure gaming machines, right? They brought solutions into play that you can put in the PC and turn it from this office dumb machine into an ultimate gaming rig by putting this hardware card into your machine and suddenly, you know, making it available to do awesome games. What a new launch of hardware like Maxwell enables people to do is to really upgrade capabilities of their PC, like 50% higher performance in your games, which is awesome, right? It's something that you can only do on PCs, not on consoles. That's what's really interesting about these kind of new launches, especially one as fundamental as Maxwell, where it's a really big leap, right? It's a really progressive, you know, or a huge step for gaming.
When you chase the proverbial graphics dragon, you wind up in this kind of diminishing returns where you're going for photorealism. Now's the time to stylize. Now's the time to play with the look and feel of the game. You know, let's play with something that may be slightly a little bit cartoony, maybe exaggerated proportions, to kind of have good art direction and define what the game is. So it looks fantastic at that high-end experience, but we're not trying to ape real life. Thanks, NVIDIA. So I've been working with NVIDIA ever since the days of Unreal Tournament back in the day when it was the way it's meant to be played, and I think NVIDIA is doing a pretty bang-up job of making PC to continue to be a global phenomenon. So congratulations on the Maxwell launch. Hope you enjoyed the tour. I'll see you guys online.
It's exciting. We're back in the Game 24 studio live with the man, the myth, the legend, Cliffy B.
Cliffy B.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for being on. So,
have to lay for him.
So, this is a good analogy. Just go with me here. You're like the Brett Favre of the gaming industry. You go into retirement, and then you come back. What's going on there?
Well, we both have unpronounceable last names as well.
Yes.
You know, I honestly thought I was going to retire, and it's easy to focus on sometimes how the gaming community can focus and be negative on certain things, but I just realized this is in my blood. I missed getting build notes and seeing new things that the programmers did. I missed coming into work and geeking out about things that people worked on and writing up a description of an environment or a weapon and seeing it show up in my inbox. And I realized, you know, you can only just, you know, sit at the pool with a beer and a Kindle for so long. It just gets old, honestly. And, you know, I am happier than I have been in a while, you know, creating this team. We're up to 17 people now. And we're interviewing a lot of folks from a variety of different studios. Seems like one a week. And, you know, bringing a lot of talented people that hopefully aren't assholes, because I have no asshole rule here.
So what's it like at this new studio in North Carolina?
It's a good vibe. We want to really keep it with that kind of family of developers where we're medium to small sized. I've always said there's a lot of amazing talent out there that's working on these enormous AAA games, these crazy ass budgets, that would just love to come to a place that just feels cozy, where everyone gets along. We go to lunch together. We know what's going on in the industry. We play games together, and just generally do this for the right reason, which is to make the best game. And hopefully, if you do that, the money will follow.
Well, speaking of the game, can you give us a glimpse into what you're working on?
I can give you a little bit of it. What we're trying to do is be transparent, and we just had a meeting yesterday with the PR folks from Nexon, who's funding the studio, and they're acting as our publisher. And we want to be incredibly transparent, but you can't just throw things out there. Well, so, I look at the current state of first-person shooters. Nice selfie, top left guy. Everyone's Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Call of Duty. And anytime anybody at the studio mentions League of Legends or Call of Duty, I want to smack them, because, yeah, those games are great and they do a lot of things right, but you can't just chase after those games. You need to identify why they're successful and learn from that and apply it to something that's new and unique, but also still feels traditional. So do I want to make a clone of Team Fortress or Unreal Tournament? No. I think there's lessons to be learned from the old guard of games actually requiring some fucking skill, but also update it for this new world order of games that are incredibly deep, that sometimes take months to solve what's the most overpowered or underpowered thing. And honestly, by the time people get around to figuring out what it is, new content is often introduced, so the puzzle can get crowdsourced again with the community.
Wow.
So
that was a mouthful, I know.
That was
so
intense.
What you're saying is you don't have a release date. You're going to release the game when you feel it's done.
Well, I think when you say the game comes out when it's done, means you have no fucking idea what you're building. And as we iterate in this, we're panning for gold. Once we have a solid idea of what we do, we're going to set a date and try and work back from that. But I got to tell you, what we want to release is something that's just a rough, playable, like pre-alpha. It'll be pretty good looking, but it won't be, final quality. And, we want to, hey, we have a new gun. You want to try it out and give us feedback? We won't, necessarily implement every bit of feedback, because that's physically impossible. But if you have one person who suggests that the reload on this one weapon could be reduced by 30% because it'll make this gun better, and you listen to them, they feel like, amazing. And that's kind of the current state of game development, as opposed to the walled garden that a lot of people are doing.
So we're here obviously celebrating PC gaming. Where do you, Cliffy, see the trends of PC gaming going?
It's impossible to talk about PC gaming without mentioning console gaming as well, and I know this is an NVIDIA gig, but I still love consoles. I'm still playing the crap out of Destiny right now, but 9 times out of 10 when a game comes out, if there's a PC version, I play it on my high-end rig. And, the keyboard and the mouse are still one of the best ways to absolutely play a game. When I look at the comparisons of console versions of a game versus a high-end PC game, the PC ones are just head and shoulders above. The console experience is a different one, just like a tablet or a mobile one is. But lately, it feels like for me, I'm playing most of my games on the PC.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's because, that's really what it's taking to support...
Hashtag PC Master Race.
I think everyone was thinking it.
Well, it's funny, guys, because, when we saw the shift more towards consoles with the Xbox 360, we're like, look, this is where we want to go to. The PC gaming I was famous for saying at that point was in a state of disarray, and it was back then. I got a lot of shit for that. But you've seen Steam get incredible. You've seen broadband penetration increase. You've seen the PC a lot more usable as far as actually firing up a game. And holy shit, it actually works now. Yeah. And, NVIDIA's marching along. Everybody's marching along. And, now more than ever, it's a better time to be a PC gamer.
Well, I want to ask you, you mentioned getting a lot of shit for some of your comments. And I've always loved following your career. Whenever I've seen an interview or whatnot, you're always very outspoken. So I appreciate
Me, never. I'm going to start nibbling on some lunch with my Chick-fil-A here, so.
Are you getting paid for that, Cliffy? Did you get paid to
no.
put that bag up?
But you've always been very outspoken and opinionated, and I'm just curious how you allow or not allow the noise of the internet, people that post on message boards, people that talk at you on Twitter and whatnot. Like, how do you filter that to, like, sometimes there's useful lessons to be learned, and other times it's just haters and nonsense. How do you filter that?
There's a lot going on the internet right now. Hang on.
If you're gonna have, I'm gonna have one of my dark chocolate covered espresso beans.
Okay.
Go for it. I'd rather have people say something than not. It's the indifference that you have to worry about. It's being polarizing. It's having an opinion about something. And, the internet is a beautiful, free place. The problem is when things spiral in a downward cycle and people start issuing death threats over things. It's like, guys, come on. Like, you know, when the FBI is getting involved, it's not exactly a healthy thing.
Right.
So there are ways to express your concerns about things on the internet. And I always like to use the idea of, you know, you look at Ricky Gervais on Twitter, and if somebody trolls him, he just, you know, makes a joke about it or, you know, outwits them. And then you gain more fans and people respect you for that. But, you know, I've been dealing with this stuff on the internet since, you know, I was 15 years old and we were dialing into BBSs. And, you know, it's the nature of the beast. You know, there's some beautiful moments where people will rally behind a cause of, say, a wounded vet. Or there's other times where people will attack, you know, people for reasons they may think are just, which may or may not be. And, you know, how to fix that? I don't know. Honestly, I don't have a solution. If I had that solution, you know, I could retire again.
So it sounds like though Destiny got you.
Destiny, I did not like it first.
Oh, really?
No, I didn't. And there's, you know, I think Destiny is having the troubled experience of introducing a lot of MMO elements to a very impatient shooter crowd. And I absolutely get and respect what they're going for. After playing it the second day for a good 4 to 5 plus more hours after the first, you know, 3 or 4, I was like, okay, I get this, you know, and I'm going to go back to it and keep playing it. Bungie's in it for the long haul. Activision's in it for the long haul. And in spite of, you know, the biggest weakness I see in the game with the bullet sponges and the bosses, I think there's enough mystery in there. They're stingy enough with the loot drops that the game might last a long time.
You're known for first-person shooters, mostly, but what non-first-person shooter game would you recommend in terms of something that you play? Peggle 2?
Oh, jeez. No, I mean, I'm a sucker for, like, really good, like, side-scrolling type platform games. The Strider game that came out recently on downloadable was fantastic. Counter-Spy is a pretty cool kind of, you know, Metroidvania type game. Those are ones that I'll always kind of dig. You know, nothing wrong with, you know, candy swipe type stuff, but honestly, those are more distractions than actual games.
This is a totally random question, but are you at Bosskey right now? Are you
Yes.
in your office?
I'm actually at work right now.
This is your office? Are we
Yes,
in your... I love it.
This is my office. This is my notebook with game ideas in it.
Sweet.
And, you know, there's lots of concept art behind me that you can't quite see yet.
I was gonna say, what's the wall behind you? Like, what's the plans for that wall?
I'm actually not allowed to touch that wall, and because this is a historic property, and we're allowed to touch certain walls that are just shitty drywall. This is like old school stuff, you know, downtown Raleigh that, you know, was really the old stuff that was here, you know, for, you know, 70 years, 100 years or whatever. And, you know, the acoustics in the place are terrible. But that, you know, sometimes you hear a conversation about Destiny or PC gaming or anything in the background, and you can kind of jump into it because you can hear everybody's word and squeak on the floor.
What made you pick North Carolina?
It was about 1998 when Steve Pold was one of the old Unreal Tournament programmers. He used to work at IBM, and they had Research Triangle Park out here, and he suggested the area. And in 1998, it kind of fucking sucked. But over the last, you know, 15 plus years, it's turned into a great little southern town. It's like a mini Austin. You know, right downtown here, you know, there's art festivals, music festivals, food truck rodeos, hipsters everywhere. And it's a great place if you're single. It's a great place if you're married with kids. And my favorite thing is to find some talent, you know, some people I got from Call of Duty or other West Coast development houses. And the spouse gets on Zillow.com and checks out the real estate. And it's like, yeah, that's right. And even, you know, people from the Pacific Northwest. And, hey, look, it's a sunny day here. Surprise. Yeah. It's a booming little spot. And, you know, we have direct flights to San Francisco and LA if we want to visit anyway.
Yeah.
I would just like to say that your work in the past and still now is inspiring. And your opinions and statements that you made in the games that you have been talking about are very, very true.
Thank you. Well, I do agree with you. Sometimes, you know, I've had a few misfires here and there with opinions, but, you know, we all have our good days and our bad days.
Did you play Dishonored from Arcane Studios? And did you like it?
Yeah, Dishonored for me had a little bit, I think the art director was the guy who did Half-Life 2. And so he has this kind of almost Eastern European Cold War vibe to a lot of his look. And he's utterly fantastic. And Harvey Smith worked on that. He worked on the Thief franchise. And he also came up with Warren Spector during the Deus Ex era. And Dishonored for me, we had this conversation on Twitter with somebody recently where I was talking about, you know, gameplay being emergent and not scripted. And somebody pointed out that Dishonored was a perfect balance of scripted storytelling as well as emergent gameplay, where you could go in that game and you could be as much of a ninja as you wanted to. You could hide, you could use stealth, use the blink. But when the shit hit the fan, you could completely kick ass. And there was YouTube videos of people, like, really completely destroying the bad guys in that game in the most amazing fashion. And I have a lot of respect for that. I hope they make a sequel, actually.
Here's to hoping.
I have a question, but it's not very close to the subject. I want to know because I'm part of a school that actually does programmation. We have a lot of people that come talking to us. We have he used to own Nest. You know, he sold it for $3 billion. We have that kind of people, but we don't have people that make video game. I was wondering if you were doing like talk to others and stuff like that.
Right now, I'm trying to limit travel. I do have one trip coming up where I'm going to Montreal for an IGDA thing to do a speech. It's one part to do this speech as far as summarizing what the first few months of being a startup has been. It's also because I have a dear friend I haven't seen in a while up there. But honestly, I wish you'd asked me about a year ago, but when I could travel as much as I wanted to, because right now, we're building this company and I need to really have my feet in the ground. So maybe ask me again in a year. But I'll tell you, if you go to something like GDC. Or any of those game developer conferences, and you can just walk up to any developer that is well known and introduce yourself, which you don't see in a lot of other businesses such as film and music and television. Developers are incredibly accessible and very down-to-earth people.
Thank you.
When can we expect games with graphics like in Unreal Engine Samaritan demo?
In which Unreal Engine demo?
You can hear me, right?
I can hear you.
When can we expect games with graphics like in Unreal Engine Samaritan demo?
So the Samaritan demo, or
in your opinion?
Well, so as far as what we're doing, we're looking at engines right now, and we're evaluating Unreal as well as some other options. Unreal 4 looks very, very cool. I'm at the point where I love great graphics, and once you experience a certain level of graphics, it's really hard to go back. You're like, once you see Guardians of the Galaxy and its effects in IMAX, it's hard to go back to, something from 15 years ago. But at the same time, if you're making a PC game, you need to make sure you're running a potato. So I need to hit both ends of the spectrum with this game. We're making conscious decisions about the design and the aesthetic of this game to make sure that if you're running it on a great rig, it's going to look absolutely gorgeous. But if you're running it on that, nasty potato, it can still technically run. And one of my biggest things is just, sometimes let the lighting just breathe. Let the lighting do its thing and let the clarity of the game be great, especially for a competitive experience.
When do you think that the hardware will actually not be enough for the software to run?
When do I think hardware will not be enough for software to run?
Like, current games are not that demanding. For example, I have two 780 Ti's and I can run anything. When will I be forced to buy something more powerful to run the games that I want and the resolution that I want?
The thing you have to understand is you're a power user, right? You're the one leading the charge. The PC master race absolutely just crushes it. But a lot of the people who are behind the economics of game development want to cast that net as wide as possible. And when you look at making a game with that level of graphical fidelity, it's not just a movie where you can composite in some great things and it'll look great. You have to look at it from every single angle. When you take a pen in a game and you can just completely go around it, as right? And that you can't just do it from one angle. And so just the costs go up exponentially. And so that's the biggest concern right now is budgeting. A lot of developers are trying to outsource, trying to find a way to make the best looking bang for their buck without fleecing the consumers with things that they don't like crappy DLC or season passes. So from that end, honestly, it's a matter, I think at this point, now the graphics are getting better and better, of finding the right style and then hopefully having something that, will push your machine. I mean, you look at modded Skyrim on a high-end PC and it looks great, but are we going far enough? Are we going fast enough? Probably not, but we'll, maybe a couple of years we can have games that try and catch up to that.
Cliffy, what's been the most challenging part about running your own studio? I mean, you're starting this from the ground up, and I know this is new for you. You've been in the game a long time, but this is a new venture. So what's been the most challenging part?
I think the most challenging thing for me is finding the time to maintain creative kind of ownership over the game we're building while also maintaining a company and just, doing my part to run the company as the CEO and founder. Finding time to interview people, call them and give them the pitch for the studio and the darn game and keeping it fresh. Occasionally popping out for an interview, but also firing up the build and giving notes on, a weapon or character movement and things like that. It's certainly a challenge, and it's one of those things that, this is very much a marathon, not a sprint, and we're pacing ourselves, building slowly and steadily, and hopefully going to make some good stuff.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah, tortoise and the hare. Always comes back to Jazz Jackrabbit.
It does, for sure.
I'm curious, you mentioned earlier Guardians of the Galaxy and seeing that in IMAX. What are your influences outside of gaming?
Honestly, it's I got a lot of inspiration from just reading over the last couple of years. You know, there's a book series called Swarm that was good. I'm sorry?
Reading words in a book.
Yes. Actually, you know,
what books? I'm just curious where these you draw inspiration.
Yeah, I read I think it was The Fifth Wave, which was a young adult sci-fi, which was pretty good. Swarm by I think it was B.V. Larson was good, as well as all the startup books. An Innovator's Dilemma, the Lean Startup, and just trying to figure out, if I was actually going to do this company, would I have any idea what I'm doing? And one thing I learned from all of these startup books is every company is different. It's just like every relationship. You need to figure out, what works for each personal relationship, each professional relationship, and you can't force the company culture of Amazon, Google, or Zappos on a company like Bosskey and vice versa. And that's one of the biggest things I've learned. So, and also, what I've learned to love is just American football. Like, I hated it for years. In the last few years, Sunday, watching the New Orleans Saints suck lately is a treat of mine.
Oh, no. That's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah, they're not doing so hot this year.
Cowboys land. I'm a Cowboys fan. What do you think of the Cowboys?
Dallas for me it's the worst of LA and the worst of the South combined into one big city. So
I'm with you.
How do you really feel?
Yeah.
You get the freeways, the traffic, the sprawl, the heat, the vapidness.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Dallas either. Sorry.
What?
Sorry.
I'm Team Austin.
Haters gonna hate.
That's cool. Did you play Madden then at all?
No, I haven't touched Madden since years ago. I get it, I respect it, and it's actually funny. I have a piece of art in my office that I bought. I can't recall the artist's name. He's really good, and I found his artwork at the Chuck Jones Gallery in San Diego when I was at Comic-Con this year. And it's just this cartoony little frog sitting in a pond. It's just the cutest, happiest thing. And if you read the guy's history, he actually worked at EA on Madden. And, which is a death march of having an annual game come out. And I just love the fact that this guy decided, you know what, fuck it, I'm done doing this annual death march of this EA game. I'm going to go paint my happy little frogs and make a living doing it. And I bought the artwork before I even knew that. But now that it's hanging in my office, it's a reminder to, do what you love. Life's too short.
Wow, I applaud you for that. What advice would you give to, earlier we were, in our Skype conversation, a lot of the people were asking for advice.
What's the best restaurant, or how do you find a good mechanic?
In terms of the industry, getting into the industry.
Well, less time calling people names on Twitter and more time making stuff would be a good start.
Amen.
That's good.
It's one of those things. If I tell people, they're like, "How do I get into gaming?" It's like, okay, if you wanted to be a chef, what would you do? You'd start cooking some fucking food, and you'd burn a lot of food, and it would suck before you'd get good. You might kill a few people along the way with food poisoning, but eventually you might wind up becoming, Gordon Ramsay. And it's not easy. Just because you like playing games doesn't mean you'll be good at making them. Just because you like eating food doesn't necessarily mean you'll be a good chef. But more than ever, there are more venues between Unreal Engine being cheaper, Unity, all of that, to crack it open. And if you're being fleeced, for a college education you may or may not necessarily need, spend your nights building your own project at home so that you're getting that kind of the double edge of experience, so that when the time comes and you send your resume and you not only have maybe whatever degree from whatever university, but hey, here's a shooter mod that we made for Half-Life 2 or Team Fortress that kind of replaces all the guns with ducks, and we thought it was cool, and we're like, holy shit, this guy's great. I just hired a level designer who was out of school, and made a bunch of great Team Fortress 2 maps, and then he sent in his resume, and then it turns out that Valve bought a couple of them. And now he's sitting, 15 feet away from me building levels. And that's honestly sometimes that simple as far as how it works.
So do you recommend, in some ways, a path of self-education? Because
there are good schools out there, and there are schools that are just there to get as much money as possible. These student loans are at an all-time high. It's a crippling debt. It's not one that can be forgiven. And, a lot of kids go to school because they think they have to, as far as college. And the next thing they know, they're out of school and they have, a house, a mortgage, essentially, they have to pay back over the next 30 years. And a lot of the stuff they learned was not directly applicable to what they're going to do. So I hate to, I can't heartily recommend the path that I took, which was stay up all night making my own video games until I could actually drop out of college because I was making enough money, because there's some merit to be had for higher education. But I think, you know, there's more instances than not of people graduating with skills that they can't apply in the workforce. And it goes back to the old saying, you know, when everyone's special, no one is. You know, you see a lot of kids graduating with, like, you know, archaeology degrees and all this. And you're like, dude, what are you going to do with that? You know, we be fucking Indiana Jones? Like, come on, like, make something.
Wow. Well, first of all, Cliffy, want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us here in the Game 24 studios.
I wish
Yeah,
you
thanks
were
for
a
having
little
me.
bit more outspoken, and I wish you spoke your mind more. Can you please work on that while you're in North Carolina?
That's what I love about. That's what I've always loved about you is you speak your mind. Please continue to do it. I follow everything you do. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And just remember on Twitter, you have a 2-drink limit. Any more than that, you're not allowed to tweet.
That's great advice.
And next time, will you please ship some waffle fries my way? I didn't know it was gonna be like this during our interview. I would have come prepared.
Smell it, smell it.
Get out of here.
You're torturing us.
I'm hungry.
Great.
All right, it's good seeing you guys.
Thanks,
Great.
Cliffy.
Thanks. Take care,
You too.
Cliffy.
Take care.
Appreciate
Happy Friday.
it. Thank you. Great questions on Skype too.
Yes, that was awesome.